And we're recording. Okay, so tell me about yourself.
So, hey everyone, hey Alex. My name is Andrei Lebedev. I'm working as a senior iOS developer at Yandex. My iOS experience started in 2015 when I got a job at the outsourcing company Secret Lab. So after 2 years, I joined into Yandex. Here I worked in different teams such as Auto.ru. It's a classified app for selling used cars. And then I worked at the Messenger team. And after 3 years, I started to work at Yandex Zen in live and short video service as an iOS team lead. So my iOS responsibilities here including system design, solving complex technical problems, managing interactions between adjacent teams, and so on.
Got it. Do you have any people reporting to you? Like, are you solely IC, like individual contributor, or it's more like managerial role?
I guess I do just it simultaneously. So I work as a individual contributor, and also I have to managing people.
Perfect. Okay, so the question today: do you have any drawing tool which you prefer?
I just saw on your mock online interviews use Excalibur, so I guess we have to use it.
You can use anything you want. So Excalibur is fine.
Okay, so I can share maybe the link, yes, with you, or just
You can
share
share the
screen.
screen. Would be easy to
Okay,
share the screen.
great. Just a minute. So can you see?
Yep. So the question today, we're going to be designing a survey library. But here is a little twist. So everything should be dynamic. Survey. Do you know the concept of survey?
No. I don't know.
So the survey is basically when you ask a user to fill out questionnaire. So for example, on a scale from 1 to 10, how likely would you recommend Yandex Zen to like friend or coworker? Or like, please provide us detailed feedback when users could just type some text, or maybe like check certain options. So the goal is to build a library for surveys. And it also should target users. So instead of like making a call saying like, hey, show the survey, the developer should be able to configure a logic. So for example, if the app user made an app purchase or launched the app 10 times in Germany, then we would need to show them such survey. And
okay, so survey library.
Yeah, so this case, I'm going to give you requirements. So first of all, it should be dynamic UI, which you configure on the backend. So imagine a customer, like the one who's using your library, would go to your backend and just configure it like, oh, it's pretty much similar to Google Forms. So I want to have a checklist. I want to have like text item, etc. And the second requirement is that the library should automatically target users based on the app usage patterns. So instead of just making a call and saying, hey, I'm going to show the survey, you would basically like make another call and you put an event. So for example, when a consumer opens like profile screen, you would send profile event. And at any event, there is an opportunity to show the survey. So everything should be configured on the backend. That means that you need to deliver content without updating clients. Does it make sense?
Device. Yep, yep. And also,
Your goal is just to make it as configurable as possible without updating clients.
Okay, let me just think about it 1 minute. So our requirements survey and show it. Oh, okay. We just make a survey on the backend, and our library have to just show it. Yeah.
Yeah. So you don't need to make a survey per se. Imagine that you have a dashboard when user can go. It's same as Google Forms, but it's on mobile, and it should be more user specific in terms of not just like show it to everyone. You should be able to select. So imagine you go to the backend and select criteria. So for example, the app should be launched 10 times, and users should complete an app purchase, and it should be in Germany.
Okay, so just show survey, configure in backend. And maybe that's it. That's all. Okay.
I would also want to add that even if user is offline, you still want to show the survey.
Okay. So how many maybe users we're gonna to serve?
Let's say it's 1 billion.
1 billion users. And also we have to okay, just a minute. Okay, just put it there. And it is our SDK. Yeah. So maybe let's just try to explain our high-level architecture. Okay. Okay, here would be backend. Just let's draw our just SDK. And so first of all, you said that we have to show different views, different UI from server side without updating. Yeah. So I just want to say that we have to, okay, we have to add some module that can draw different UIs. Okay, then so we have to add network service. Okay. So persistent for offline usage. So here our minimal requirements for that. Also, we have to include some specific use cases with maybe mapping and sending our answers
Mhm.
to backend. And also we have to concretize our interface between some apps that will be using our SDK.
Mhm.
Okay, just a minute. I will think about our working with
Yeah,
apps.
it's better if you do this in a diagram so everyone would just see.
Ah,
Like,
okay.
yeah.
So, uh, could you tell me when we want to show our survey, is just would be a separated screen or maybe just like notification or alert on screen,
Um,
or we just
let's scope it to a separate view controller. So basically, you would present a view controller.
okay, so I would present recontroller.
Yep. So let's say let's scope it to a model view controller.
Great. Um, Great. So this is important thing because I wanted to clarify how we have to interact with our host application. So if we just have to present a vController, so we can encapsulate everything in just our SDK and behind our just vController. Okay. So it's gonna be our storage. It's just our okay, model. Also, we have to Okay, if I clearly understand, so it is just minimal requirements for our SDK because we have to send our request to our network service. After that, we gonna respond some UI, server-side UI, that we're gonna to show on our separated controller. After maybe some actions, we're gonna to send it back to network service. And after getting some responses, we may just maybe closing it and that's it. And also, I remember one requirement with the offline. So I want to clarify this moment, what we should to cache to our storage. Just the survey maybe, or what?
So to fully support UI, fully support offline mode, what information would you recommend to cache?
Okay, let me explain. First, I thought that we to show the survey, we have to go to backend, and from that we get next no, we get next survey.
Mhm.
If we gonna cache it, this survey and add offline mode in our SDK.
Mhm.
So I said I want to say just we just need cache next maybe next survey for us, and that's will be feed for us. No.
What if you want to show multiple surveys depending on the state of user's device? So you would have one survey, for example, for Germany, another survey for anyone who made like 10 in-app purchases, and the third one for anyone who didn't do anything, pretty much like using the app, using like very little features. How would you address this?
So you want to say that this whole logic should be on our SDK,
No,
or
no, the logic should be on backend.
what?
So imagine that
Okay.
SDK just reports some events, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you need to configure like your survey based on what kind of events and user generated and what's your current device state. Or we can let's reduce the scope and talk more about server-driven UI. So
Okay.
imagine for now it's just single survey. There is no targeting logic, just server-driven UI.
Okay. So what we have to talking about? I want to start about server-side UI. So um, I want to represent that our interface between backend and our SDK will be like that. We're requesting our next survey with different params. Okay, and also we getting response with um, some data that we need to our SDK. Okay, and also the second part was or should be like template how we should use our server side nodes like text view or image view and so
Mhm.
on. Um, yeah, and the third part was will be is just our layout. Yeah, how our hierarchy will be showed on the screen.
Mhm.
So this work will be encapsulated in our modules with server side UI. It's a like server side. Yeah, and our server model is just our view controller with our components that can interact with our server-side UI model to show this UI.
Mhm. So
Mm-hmm.
tell me more about the format. So first of all, how would you
Mm-hmm.
uh, transfer UI from backend to the client?
Okay, great. So let's just imagine we have to we have our endpoint next survey. Okay. Um, we expect for this response. Okay, survey data, some kind of data template, and okay, let's just a minute. Template and layout. Okay, so this is our just valuable information for our SDK. Maybe
Mhm.
I don't know some info. Okay, just leave out the scope. Our template it is a group of layouts that we using frequently for our okay our service, like template with mm, checkboxes or template with text editing views, something like that. And also layout is just how we fill our already prepared views. For example, imagine we have the cell where we can show the title and okay, text edit maybe. So our information about this title should be exist in our layout. So it's imagine it's just a dictionary with case and some views. And okay, layout. Layout is just our decodable structure that can interact with our server-side UI model. Okay.
So
That's
when you
our
said
server.
decodable, that means like what format you're going to be using? Is it JSON? Is it binary?
Yeah, I just prefer. Let's just it would be JSON. Okay. Maybe it's not really important for us because also, okay, we can use a protobuf for that um, to compress our sending information, but maybe it's just not necessary at this point or at this moment. Okay, so it's gonna be JSON format. And did I answer to your question how we would interact with?
So let me make sure that I understand correctly. So data is just metadata, whatever response you have, right? I'm not sure like what's the difference between template and layout. Like
Okay.
Why do we need those?
Let me explain. Imagine you have to show one screen that have three cells like this, title and text edit, and one another field. Okay, that we have to show, and your layout will contain just one template with this cell and also one template for this cell. And after that, in layout, you just don't have to type 3 times layout for this cell. You have to
Okay, I
just,
see.
yeah. Okay.
Okay. Tell me about how would you send response? So tell me about response format. So when users submit survey, what kind of data are you going to be sending?
Okay, I imagine that from our server-side UI model, we gonna get some actions after user interactions. So we send it to our server model and collect before sending to backend. Okay, just let me think. 1 minute.
Let's look at a very simple example. Imagine you have a survey, and it's like some text and 2 radio buttons. Like, do you like pizza? I don't know. You said yes, no, and there is submit button. So what would you send in this case?
So I just want to clear one moment. Is it a lot of types of our survey, or just maybe we have limited number of types, like yes or no, or maybe with radio
We want
buttons?
to make it as flexible as possible. So
Yeah,
you want to support as much UI as you can, without, like, preferably without updating clients.
Okay, maybe I have to just think about it there. So we have
So
to.
you might want to be able to somehow identify your UI controls, right?
Yeah, our minimal requirements for to work with that is just first, okay, our maybe of mm, type of survey, okay. Then our answer that gonna be different for different types. Maybe for yes no service, yeah, we
Mm-hmm.
just have to say zero or one or two true false, yeah. For
Mm-hmm.
flexible service like which is your favorite restaurant, we have to just send maybe just a string. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I try to just a minute. Mm.
So imagine you have two cells, like you have single template, which basically like you can fill out medical form. Like you come to hospital and have you got like any surgeries? Do you
Mhm.
have like high blood pressure? Do you have this, and this? Imagine you have a list of those. Each of them require yes or no answer. And then submit button. Once you submit button, you should record all your choices, right?
Okay, let's just maybe we can start with different types of service, and then maybe later we have to we will extend it.
Mm-hmm.
So um, the main question was how we have to send our service to the server. Okay.
Right. So how would backend knows if user, for example, select yes on the first
Mhm,
control, no on the second, and so forth?
mhm. Um, the main question, it is important to know backend every answer in real time. I guess it's not important, yeah?
I would say that would really change the problem. Let's stick to one submit button, but it's very
Mhm,
important for us that we collect survey response because very little amount of users would actually go and fill out survey. So you may note yourself you on a site and then survey pops up. You don't even read it. You just immediately dismiss it. So every reply to a survey is very expensive in terms of we can't lose it. We need to make
mhm,
sure that it's going to get to the servers. It's going to show no matter what, and it's going to get back to our server no matter what.
mhm. Okay, I got it. Um, First of all, on each action of user, we have to collect our answers to our storage. Okay, that would be um, saving like KVL storage, uh, where our K would be just identifier or of our type of survey, and then value will be our answer. Just simplify it. Mm,
Mm-hmm.
Survey is just type and answer.
Mm-hmm.
Then um, okay, after some time, user filled uh, maybe 3 out of 5 our surveys. Um, on each event that we get from our UI that user maybe press the OK button or press cancel button, we
Hmm.
just can send to our backend our answers.
Hmm.
Sending backend on OK and cancel actions. The third one, if our application maybe was terminated during our sending request, we
Hmm.
have to just okay. We don't have to do anything because we have already cached our service in our storage, and we will
Hmm.
send it on next our app launching.
Hmm.
Okay, I just put this bullet mark our survey as succeed succeed on this. Okay, and resend our surveys on next launch if our app was terminated. Okay. It's just a simple scheme for
Okay.
our sending.
Um, let's go back to the server-driven UI. So
Mhm.
imagine in iOS, I don't know, 16, there is a new framework. It's called Happy ID, which basically you open a camera and you can smile or just like frown, and it would tell how happy you are. So we want to add this new survey type, but
Mhm.
there are already clients running iOS 16, for example, right? So we're talking about the future. And how do you make sure that that would work in a backward compatible way? So now we
Mhm.
want to add another survey type, which we never even like considered to be in existence before.
Yep. Okay. So we're gonna talk about server-side UI model that have to support our new feature in iOS 16, maybe. Yeah, with
Yeah, but
smiling.
it should not break clients which already in the
Yep.
wild.
Yep. Sure. Okay. I mm, just a minute. Um, I will tap our information server-side model. So in iOS 16, we have new feature with smiling. Yeah,
Yeah, so there is a face ID we called Happy ID or something like this.
happy
I don't
ID.
know.
Okay, and on smaller versions, we have to add backward compatibility. I guess it's just maybe another different UI with 5 radio buttons. How would you feel now um, in iOS less than 16? Okay.
So the
So
problem is you
as this.
introduce a new survey control type,
Mhm.
which your previous clients have absolutely no idea about. So now if you send survey data, what's going to happen?
Okay, let me just think for 1 minute and I will come up with something. I guess, just, okay, that's great. Um, we just have to, okay, I can put one condition. If we have to, today iOS 16 and also we have already updated app, uh,
Mm-hmm.
that that means that we have already supported our happy ID. So we can just show our new UI for this feature. And if
Mm-hmm.
no, we just can show our oldest version of this feature. Like we just can ask of you for user how you feel now, and just put maybe radio button with five buttons like that.
So who would decide it? Like, would this be SDK, or how do you know that in one case you need to show our happy ID control, while in the other case you would just need to like select between like how happy you are, like not very happy, happy, extremely happy, etc.
Okay, got it. Um,
So
okay, we just can we just can use one of approaches. Maybe first one can be when we sending our request with next survey, we can just put in this request some params like our current iOS version and our current iOS application. So after that, backend knows how we can work with next response. Or maybe the next approach I can just a minute. I guess the first one may be better. Yeah.
What is the second one?
The second one, I wanted to send another versions like our next type would be happy ID survey. And also we have to implementation for showing our UI. So and also we have to interact with our server-side UI model with some params on launching, when we can concretize our iOS version, version of our iOS application, and our server-side model should be used maybe one version of UI or second.
So let me make sure that I understand correctly. You're going to be effectively sending two versions of the survey on each device, and then device would decide which one to show.
Yep. That was my second approach.
Okay, and this, I'm still confused. So that was the second, just sending multiple versions. What was the first one?
The first one was when we sent our request. Okay, just a minute. I will text it. Send next survey request with params, maybe.
Right.
iOS version and app version. So at this point, backend knows about everything for us, and it can send our maybe UI server-side UI. Yeah. Correct, server-side UI.
Okay, so basically backend would decide which UI to send, right?
Yep, right.
So imagine now you have lots of different SDKs, lots of different versions, and we've been having this for 20 years. And we have like way more clients. So the problem is the backend would do lots of work just to run this logic and generating correct UI.
Yep, sure.
Yeah, and it didn't work. Our backend team comes back and said, like, the load is too high. Our CPU is through the roof. What can we do? So when you have lots of customization, you have very little opportunity for caching, right?
Yep, right.
So they come back and said, like, okay, our cache is full, CPU is through the roof. Please do something about it.
We have a lot of types, a lot of SDKs that's gonna be stalled. Yep, you said.
Yep. So basically, we have like combinatorial explosion in terms of like many different dimensions.
Yep, yep. Um, yep, if you wanted to solve this problem, maybe we have to add this logic on our app, but we have to designing something. Okay, how we can do that? If we will send two types of our surveys. Okay. So maybe we can work like that. We can send just our maybe next survey, happy ID survey. So if our SDK can support this type of survey, we just show it. If no, we have to implement some backward things that should work in okay every time. So the problem in this approach just how we would work with unsupported types of service. Okay, great. Maybe I would say I would implement it like that. If we can support type, just show type. Else, we have backward survey type. I think that it can be like label with question and text edit with answer.
Okay, so basically, in your template, you would have like a list of things you can show, and basically
yep,
you
yep.
look at first of them. Okay. All right, that makes sense. Yeah, I guess we're on time. It's been 45 minutes. So
oh, really? Okay. Time flies so fast.
Yep. Interview is always fun. I posted the link for the doc. And what was really missing in this one? You didn't collect any requirements. So what's the survey format? Do we have text only, images? Do we have any sensitive data? How the SDK would be integrated? What minimum iOS version can we support? In terms of concurrency, can we only invoke survey from like main thread from a view controller, or we can use this from like anywhere, from a background job, etc. Because that would decide how you build your AI, because you might not have a window to present something, and you might need to create your custom window and then show something. How about security? Do we need to like use encryption if we store sensitive data? Do we need to keep sensitive data? And how about privacy? If we collect, for example, if we do targeted surveys, can we run into privacy issues because we kind of build in a user profile, and then based on like what users do, we can target them in a certain way that might create like lots of issues. So you should be very careful with what kind of information you capture, especially when it's coming to targeting logic. So then we switch to high-level design, but we're still not sure what exactly we're building, because requirements were like very vague. Like requirements were very vague intentionally, because sometimes stakeholders have no idea what they want. They come and said, "Well, I want to kind of have this thing which like kind of like when user does something, we kind of know this, and we just show appropriate UI. And you need to go and ask lots of questions, like what exactly they want. So this part was missing, and we got a high-level UI, but once again, it's very generic components. So you got this diagram, you bring it to the team and said, okay, so we build in survey library, right? Survey SDK. Here's a high-level diagram. Go. Can you really build based on this? So like targeting engine is missing. It's very hard to like make sense of it, right? So
yeah, right.
when I kind of saw that you've been struggling with like the whole concept of targeting, I decided to limit the scope of the interview, which would not necessarily mean that it's bad. It's pretty much means, okay, I would try to get more signal from the server-driven UI. Like maybe I wanted to know more about targeting engine, but okay, let's just move to another topic. When asked about format, you immediately jump to like building REST API without saying, okay, so for example, we're going to be using text-based format, JSON, because of such and such, or we would use protobus because of such and such. So pros and cons, you not just pick some like one solution and start like describing it because it was never properly justified. I have no idea why we're doing this. That kind of came to the same point that said format is not important. Format is very important because it basically dictates how we build backend. It dictates how we handle backward compatibility and if we have a schema or not. Like how do we make sure that the data which you send in is correct? Like how we verify it. So we didn't get like a very good signal on data format. So we said, okay, we're going to have data, so some info. If you add some info, you would need to justify because effectively you use a network traffic, right? So exactly why do you need to send metadata? What's going to be included? So maybe it's like TTL, time to live for survey. So some surveys might be time sensitive. So after like 2 weeks, it's gone. Like it's like voting or something like this. You may say, okay, don't show the survey after such and such date. Template and layouts, I kind of see the approach. It makes sense, but would be really nice to know more about like how exactly those look. If you make it like very configurable in terms of you would need to know beforehand everything you want to show. So, for example, it's a kind of like yes/no question with some text, etc. Right? It's not very configurable in terms of if you need to change it, you would need to go on update to clients. So here's the opportunity to talk more about generic approach. So you know the lowest level components, you know radio box, you know text field, and effectively your client has nothing, doesn't know anything about survey. It just knows how to structure UI. So imagine you just sent UI layout. So you said it's going to be UI stack view, and then it's going to be those. So effectively, you're transmitting layouts as you would write them in code, for example, one approach. Or if you want to ship predefined components, or if you want to maybe do it in a way that that's a virtual machine, which might bring some issues with Apple. Apple is not very happy when you run a virtual machine. So that means that you can deliver updates without going through App Store region. You bring all those up, right? But not just like select one and said, okay, this is how we're going to be building it. What was really missing is versioning and backward compatibility. You know, everything you ship on a mobile is final, right? Especially when you have lots of clients and you made some critical error. It might take you a long time to fix it until it's all being propagated. So you might want to make sure that you have some safety measures like disabling functionality if, for example, it creates excessive crashes, etc. Adding extra requirements in the middle of design is tricky. So I said, oh, but what if real time? And I said, oh, it's such a great idea. Let's do real time. And now the task becomes much more complex than it was before. And you don't really need to go deeper until you lay off the first initial MVP product, right? In terms of backward compatibility, like sometimes you may argue is that if, for example, we have a happy ID survey, so it does require updating the client because like previous clients has no idea about this happy ID API. We said, so maybe we're not going to show it. So we send a survey and instead of just even sending data and not showing it, you would send all the device information and the backend can check. I said, oh, I don't have any surveys for iOS less than 16. And you just receive something back. You have no survey, which is the quickest and dirtiest approach. But your stakeholders may push back. They're like, nah, we still want to say something. And this is where like your fallback types is actually maybe not a bad idea. So you create templates. And if a client could not recognize a template, it just goes to the next one. So it's just a list of the most specific. So for example, it's for iOS 16, right? And it has such and such. And then it's like going down and the lowest one is the most generic. It's just like, okay, instead of using happy ID, you show like how happy you are. And so this approach might work pretty well in this case. So pros and cons. Effectively, like system design might not necessarily be just, hey, just go build Twitter or build Instagram feed. It could be, hey, let's build some library. And then it just go to something like very, very narrow, like server-driven UI. And the interviewer might not expect you to know this, but it's interesting to see how would you behave in this novelty situation. So it's very little amount of people who actually build server-driven UIs. They might use some library and have some idea about backward compatibility, all the issues. So it's interesting to see what signal candidate would produce. So for example, like backward compatibility kind of fell off radar in the beginning, so I need to bring back and say, okay, so this is what we're looking for. Like privacy security was totally outside because imagine that somebody would want to run a survey like, hey, what's your social security number? For some reason, I don't know. It's a very poor idea, but given such requirements, now we should be extra careful of how you store the data, etc. And now you can argue because not every app developer would need to store security data, like secure, like personal identifiable stuff. So they might opt out of like secure storage, etc. So you make library very configurable. In terms of general feedback, what is like kind of going around the diagram over and over again. So we describe it once, and then you start thinking, and you go about again and again, and just you don't provide much signal this way, just wasting time. Try to speak more. So there should be no pauses. So mention, okay, let me think about it, and then we both silent for 1 minute, and I have no idea if you're struggling, if you're mind locked. Do you need any hints? Well, hints are not really good in system design because this way I kind of nudge you to approach which I have in my mind. So if you can like speak a lot, so for example, okay, so this is a problem. We need to make sure that we have like this backward compatibility layer. Okay, what can we possibly do? We can't show something because API is not available and all clients doesn't know about it. So what can we do? Maybe we can try to somehow recognize that there is something we don't support. And if we don't, what we do? So we just discuss it. And you got the solution for fallback survey type, which is acceptable. But it kind of said, you said like, let me think about it. And then you thought for a minute, and you magically came up with a solution, which is, especially when we're doing an online interview, there might be somebody who's helping you. Or you might be Googling this.
Okay.
It's like going from nothing to, oh, I know exactly what to do. But you can always turn it around and say, oh, let's change requirements just a bit, just to invalidate the solution which they have. And yeah, like offering different options. You started doing with the feedback, and I really like it. Said, okay, so my first option is this. And a second option, and then you start thinking like, you know what, the first option is better. It's like, okay, but what was the second one? It misses justification. It's just like hand waving and just guessing. So this is my perception of it. And with this in mind, like anyone from the audience, raise a hand and provide your feedback. Okay, Gogan.
Okay, first of all, thank you guys. So I'll be quick. So some parts might be duplicated, but I'll start with the question. So initial question was actually like collecting some events based on some criteria that creates on the backend and showing the user to server, right? But some, so I'm going to continue based on this assumption on my feedback. So I think you initially start very quick, and even say without asking a question, you started with some assumptions and put your some functional requirements. But I was also wondering, do we still enough think to design our system? Like how we gonna know, for example, what are the criteria, etc. And also like how we can also know how we know the user location, or how are we going to limit which users to show, like do they need to authorize, like do they need to log in, etc. And also Alex mentioned about based on the user event, we're gonna do server, like the user clicking on the profile and somehow user gonna see the server, right? So somehow we need also some event logging mechanism on our system, right? To show the server on the right time. So what I'm trying to say, like somehow we need to ask more questions to clarify those points. And also in the beginning, as the requirement was too vague, like are we designing the only backend part or mobile clients, or what's also our target part? Or is that already existing SDK? Are we going to add some new feature? Those points are also initially is not clear. So in short, actually we have this 4 components, actually event collection, targeting, and somehow the server-driven UI, and offline support. Especially whenever we think about the offline support, actually the whole design also getting complicated. Because one, somehow we need to also decide where to show the server, right? If it doesn't support offline mode, that's also simple, right? Because we can send events, then backend decide when to show the user. But if we support the offline mode, this also makes stuff a bit complicated. We need to make a trade-off where to show and targeting, etc. So back to the initial point, like you started with the overview, high overview, and you put some components. But as a SDK part, also I think the one part is missing, the public API design, because we start with the high level, but in terms of the clients who are gonna integrate your library, I still don't know what I require to do integrate your library. What's your public one? What's I exposed? So it could be important. And also, how to say the other, and whenever I also take a look on the end design, I still don't know how the events go. Like from start to initial, I think it's not complete end to end. And as you, I'll say, missed the clarification part, even in the middle of the interview, we still have some, say, the doubts about how to do. Because we didn't narrow down the problem, and my, I'll say, the suggestion could be, even though it's too vague, we might scope down as a minimum feature, and based on the go, we might, if we have time, we can also expand the problem, and just focus on some points that you can also gain points. Sorry, it might be a bit long. And as I said, like for SDKs is important part, I'd say backwards compatibility, size impact, and some SLAs. Yeah, those are my comments. And if any points are not clear, please let me know. I can also try to elaborate on it.
Yeah, it's very deep in terms of like how far I can go, but gathering requirements, just making sure that you understand what you're building is most crucial. And so the rest might be just details. Okay, so Kirill.
Hi guys, just wanna say a couple words. So let's start from that. We have to build survey SDK. So first thing which we have to talk about, which kind of apps will integrate this SDK and how this SDK should be configured. So because from my perspective, it's basic thing. So we have to really carefully work on SDK initialization with which params and so on and so forth, because in any different apps, because if it will be like 100 apps, tokenization of this SDK will be different, and it will affect network service and so on and so forth. And other thing, I think we have to be more business driven. So when you, for example, ask about feature with smiling and the photo and that SDK do not comparable now with this feature, what we have to do. So I think here we have a lot of room to provide business solution. For example, use simplified flow with forms which we already have on this version, and for new version we can make a new type of server-driven UI. So be more flexible, not so technical as we developers used to. So this is my 2 points. First one is about like configuration of SDK, and second one be more not technically focused, not only technically focused, but also business driven. So just understand what kind of problem we solve and how we can do it, maybe without technical, extra technical layer. Thank you.
In this case, I kind of see like Andrei as more like L5 engineer. That's why we went like deeper into how exactly you're going to be building what's the format, because most likely you would not make this kind of decisions. When we're talking about higher level candidate like L7, L6, I would really want to see if they think like business first. They less concerned about implementation, but more about business impact, especially privacy and stuff like this. But yeah, those are very good points. But I kind of feel in this case, the candidate was out of scope of this. Andrei, I don't know you that much, so maybe you do make business decisions, which seems very unlikely based on how you describe your experience. But once again, I have no idea how things go at Yandex. Kirill, reach me out like after this, and I'd be happy to give you mocks like in a high level, like L6 level, and we can go like as broad as you want. Would be very interesting.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Okay, the next one, it's the nicknames of Meow. So yes. Go nuts.
Hi everyone, thanks for the mock. I hope you can hear me clearly. And I missed part of Alex's feedback, so I'm not sure if he covered it. I'm sure he has. I just wanted to mention 2 minor things. This is an SDK or a library. So other apps or our internal apps will probably integrate it. So we are less concerned from SDK's perspective, how many users will there be and so on. That's a separate team's concern, or whichever app. Let's say we build out this SDK and some other company is going to integrate our SDK. The SDK is just giving us some UI parsers to parse dynamic JSONs or whatever it is. And that company is responsible for handling their own backend, how many users they're going to serve and whatnot. And one other thing that I wanted to mention is just a tip. You cannot ever know everything beforehand. So just use as many services as you can, or just take 30 minutes to do mocks on features that you like from different apps. This really helps getting broad knowledge on whatever the interviewer might throw at you. Yeah, nothing to add.
Perfect. Kirill, are you still holding your hand because you have something else to add, or just didn't raise it? Like put it back?
Yeah, I just haven't put it back. Sorry. Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else? Yeah, I would just like say a couple of words in defend Andrei. It's way harder to actually be a candidate than sitting in a comfortable position, being anonymous, and like being able to critically think about design. So if you got as a candidate, it's usually much harder, and you miss so many things because there's a huge psychological pressure of like 20 people looking at you and judging. So like in this case, like you should always remember it's a discount. And I try to remember about candidates that they're very stressed, they're nervous, and you just make sure that this whole thing goes well in terms, if you see that the candidate struggles, for example, we could not land on targeting. So for me, it's much better just to move on to something else than just trying to force the candidate into like some solution or understanding when they can be like completely out of context. So in general, I think that Andrei did pretty well. I have no idea how much experience you have actually passing the interview, because it's not necessarily would make you a good interviewee if you're a great engineer, because that's a separate skill which requires practice. Experience will help for sure, but it's not just coming naturally for most of the people, I would presume. With this in mind, Andrei, what went well? What could be improved?
I guess everything was well, because I want just that that was my first interview, and even in English, that was I just want to say I do a lot of things at my current job, even like business approaches. I every time I talking with manager or as you every time saying stakeholders, but really when you getting a place of interviewer, it's really hard to every time keep in mind what you have to do next, or you just clarify maybe requirements, or maybe you can or you have to explain dig deeper in our technical things. Yeah, really, that was really difficult, and the main reason just there was training with interviewing, designing, and so on. So I really appreciate this opportunity for you, Alex, and everything that you doing. Thank you.
Sure. Anyone else? All right. If nobody else wants to speak, I would assume that the rest was perfect, and I'll probably see you next time.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
All right. Take care, guys.
Thanks, everyone.